Okay, so last time we had our Shmup. I just tweaked the numbers a little bit, but we can move around and shoot basically right now. So next we need to get an enemy working, and then we need to have them spawn at the top of the screen. They're basically going to spawn up here at the top, and they're going to move down and maybe left or right a little bit. And if they reach the bottom, then probably going to lose your score. I'll add score later, but it's fine. Let's first... the bullet last time was blue, so it was orange, so I made it blue instead. I'm going to make a copy of it. That's going to be an orange bullet, so we can distinguish our bullets from the enemy bullets. So let me do that real quick. This has projectile controller. Let's see what it does. Projectile controller. Pushes it up, and it hits the enemy. If it hits a wall, it gets destroyed too. Cool. So instead of a test enemy, it's going to be an actual enemy this time. So let me change this a little bit. It's a lot of scripts, Jesus. I'm going to make a new one called Shmup Bullet Controller. I spelled controller wrong. Cool. Wrong thing. There we go. Two L's. Make sure this is called the right thing. I'm just going to copy paste the projectile controller in there. All we needed to do different is just change what enemy we're going to grab and take damage from. Shmup bullet controller. So we're going to change this as soon as we add the enemy script. So let me make a folder actually for the Shmup stuff. So we have those three so far. Add one more script. I'm going to make an enemy controller. And that's what's going to take damage when we hit. This is the game controller? Player controller. Weird. Shmup. Bullet. Go. There we go. We just have to implement take damage. So, say public void take damage. We're going to pass in a damage amount. Going to give it a max HP and a regular HP. We're going to set it when it spawns. Oops. HP equals max HP. And then when it takes damage, we're going to say HP minus equals amount. And if HP is less than or equal to 0, then we die. We'll just say void die, just disables it. Game object dot set active to false. So right now, if we add an enemy, it should take damage and die if we shoot it with bullets. So I think we can test that. Does a bullet have? It does 1 damage. Okay, cool. So make a sprite, call it enemy. I'm gonna find I'll just drag it in. Yes, we can just drag it in. It's going to be facing down, so we're going to just rotate the Z to 180. Like that. It's going to move down and maybe to the left or right. Add a box collider. Like a little bit smaller, maybe 0.9. Add a rigid body to it. Did we change gravity scale on this? I forget. Did not, so we got to change the scale to 0. We're gonna add enemy controller. Set its max HP to like 3 or something. It does 1 damage, so it should take 3 bullets to kill. I think that's testable right now. See if it does anything weird. It's not. Oh, the enemy tag is what it needs. Now hopefully it works. Object reference. Oh, we never changed this to be the right script. So I'm gonna go to projectile, go to the bullet. I'm gonna add Shmup bullet controller. I'm just gonna delete the other one and save it. This one should have the, yep. Now it hopefully works. Yep, so now it does. Let's see. So now we want to make the enemy move down and either left or right. That should be easy enough. Let's see. That's the wrong script. There we go. Click, float, speed. Now let's do Y speed. And I'll do X speed. Current X speed. So basically, we're gonna give it an amount to move left or right, like a range, like 0 to 5 or something. And then at the beginning, when it spawns, it'll pick a direction, left or right, or whatever. Yeah. Or we could just make it move towards the player, actually. I guess that works better. So we're gonna add an update function. And we're gonna get a reference to our player. Payer. On enable, we're gonna find that reference to the player. Find object of type, player, controller. Oh, Shmup player controller, right. There we go. And we're gonna say, to move, we gotta get our rigid body reference to, we're gonna say bod equals get component, rigid body 2D. We're gonna say bod dot add force, vector 2 dot up, negative vector 2 dot up, times y speed times time dot delta time. Just gonna move it just down the screen, and we'll say if player dot transform dot position dot x, if it's to the right of us, then we're gonna move to the right. Dot add force vector 2 dot right times x speed times time dot delta time. And then we're gonna say else if this whole thing. I'm just gonna copy that. If it's less than, you could just say else, but if it's exactly the on the x position as a player, I don't want to move toward it. Not that it matters too much. So instead, I'm going to do negative x speed. So push to the right if the player's to the right. If it's to the left, push to the left. It should be enough, I think. Let's see. We have rigid body. We have a collider. We have max HP. Could do like... I'm going to change its drag first off. I'm going to change its speed to like 800 or something maybe. And then like... let's just test these values a little bit and see what works. Yeah, so it's kind of moving. Cool. I don't know what this reference is. Oh, just the preview cache every time. I don't know why this thing always shows up. Collapse. Cool. So it should move left and right and try to shoot. Let's add it so it can shoot the player too. First, we need to make an actual projectile for it to shoot. So I'm going to make another script. Shmup. Enemy bullet controller. Okay. I tried so hard to spell it right and I still spelled it wrong. Cool. Control-E controller. There we go. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I can stop and help if anybody's not getting stuff working. If they're even trying to do it with me, but it's fine either way. So bullet controller, I can just, I think I had a bullet controller for the enemy. Yeah, right here. So I'll just copy all this in there. Just says push it in a direction. I'll just change this direction to negative vector 2 dot up. And then if it hits the player, we're gonna grab the Shmup player controller instead and have it take damage, and then disable it if it hits a wall or anything else. So negative vector 2 dot up. I think everything else should work just fine. Yeah. So then in the enemy, we're just gonna give it like a public float time between attacks. 0.5f or something. Just do this. Let's give it a low time between attacks and a high time between attacks. So every 0.5 or 1 second, it'll shoot. So we need a reference to the bullet itself that we're gonna shoot. Oh, sorry. Public. Oh, I guess that works. Bullet. And then we're gonna say float attack pools, and then update. We can say if attack pools is greater than 0, attack pools minus equals time dot delta time. We can say if attack pools is less than or equal to 0, attack. So we're going to make this function void attack. There we go. And we'll say instantiate bullet at transform.position and transform.rotation. Not that the rotation matters, but I'll just, you have to pass something in if you pass in the position. And then I'll say attack cools equals time, equals random dot range time between attacks low and time between attacks high. So we'll set its cooldown after we shoot. I think that's all we need. So I'm going to make a projectile for the enemy. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna unpack it. I'm gonna call it the enemy bullet instead. I'm gonna change its sprite to be the little orange bullet. And then add the Shmup enemy bullet controller. I'll just pass in the same values and then remove the other one. You probably just throw all these into the same, all the bullet controls into the same script and just do like if statements or something, but I like doing it this way better, so it's fine. So then we can make a prefab of it and of the enemy. And then the enemy is gonna grab a reference to that bullet so it can shoot it. And if we activate it, every like 0.5 seconds or 1 second, it'll start shooting. So put this up the screen a little bit, and I want to slow it down because it's going pretty fast. These are all in the wrong folders. Jesus, I'm just not organized at all, huh? Whatever, it's fine. Let's do like 550, 0.75, and 1.2 maybe? I don't know. Whatever values you want. Cool. We're still getting an error because we didn't change the bullets to grab from the Shmup player instead of the regular player. Now it should be good. Yep, so it should shoot and take damage. And you can kill him. Cool. So we have 8 enemy. I think I have like 4 enemies or so in this one or something. Let me see. This one's much more organized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 enemies and a player in this one. So, let's start by, making a game controller. I have one from last time. I just made a new game object, we named it game controller, and then added the game controller script to it for the shmup. And we open it, see what it has so far. So it just says if you press L, the player takes damage. So we can ignore that for now. You can just click the little arrow on this side to like drop down the entire menu. Let's see. So we want it to basically spawn an enemy every so many seconds. So I'm gonna get a reference to enemy. I'm gonna make it a list so I don't have to edit it later. So enemies. I'm gonna get a float for how long we want enemies to spawn. Well, the time between enemy spawns. So like every couple seconds, and we can like reduce this number over time so it gets faster and faster and there's more enemies. So it gets more hectic and you die faster. Time between spawns. I'll do low right there. I'll copy it. Call it high. So I'll make a void spawn enemy. And then from last time we had something like this, where we spawn the enemies and we either spawn them to the top of the map, below the player, to the right of the player, or to the left of the player. So this time we're just going to spawn it above the player. And I think we just, did spawn equals minus equals, and then if spawn is less than 0, just do that. So not that intense. So I can just copy this, paste it in there, make a float spawn cools. So no arrows already, that's fine. And then basically want to spawn the enemy and get the camera bounds. So remember this was a vector 2 at the top? Yeah, vector 2 bounds. Cool. I just have to get this at the beginning now. because we're spawning at the top of the, we're spawning above the top of the camera, but the camera doesn't move, so we don't have to keep updating every time we spawn. We just have to check it the one time. 52 bounds, and we can say bounds equals camera.main.screen to world point from the screen width and the screen height. Okay, and then we want to grab this. So from negative bounds to bounds, and then spawn above the player. And we'll just say to spawn them there. So spawn enemy. I think I saved a vector3 called spawn point last time. So instantiate enemies from random.range from 0 to enemies.length. And we'll spawn at spawn point. And quaternion.identity to make sure it's facing down. If this messes up, we can just spawn it as quaternion.euler00180 and it'll face down still. But it should work. And then spawn equals random.range from from time between spawns low to time between spawns high. And then I'll do this. I'll make a float. Time decrement amount or something. And then I'll just do time between spawns low minus equals time dot delta time times time decrement amount. I'll duplicate it and do it the same thing for time between spawns high. So basically every frame we're going to be reducing both of these numbers until it gets to 0, and then it's like 1,000 enemies every second and it'll crash your computer. But we can clamp these values. Not that we really need to. We can just do time between spawns low equals math f dot clamp. Time between spawns low. Minimum is going to be like 0.1 or something, and the max is going to be, I don't know, you don't need to give it a max, just some random ass number. Basically this says for this number, keep this number between this value and this value. So if this tries to put it below this value, it'll just default to this value instead. So I'll just change this to high and this to high. And hopefully it works. Let's see. Spawns low. Let's do like 1 and 2 seconds. Decrement amount. Let's do it like, I don't know how low we have to make it, but let's see. Save the enemy in there by dragging it in, and then hopefully it doesn't break. Let's see. Yep, so it keeps going down. Oh yeah, they are spawning 0, 0, 0. Okay. Is this defaulted to? No? Weird. So let's fix this then. We're gonna do quaternion.Euler. And we're gonna do 180. And then this should spawn it looking down. I don't know why it doesn't just do this. Maybe identity means the identity of whatever is calling the instantiate? I don't know. It's fine. Yeah, so it's going down now. It's slowly moving towards me. I don't know why I'm spamming the button. I can just hold it now. God, we did that. And then we die. And if we look at the game controller, we see it's still going down. And I can drag it too. And then it can spawn a bunch of dudes. And they spawn so much that they're colliding with each other and they're rotating each other. So it's good. They should spawn on top of each other since there's not that much time between them. But let's see. Project settings, physics. If we want to stop that from happening, let's just fix that real quick. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call it enemy. And I'm going to just change it to the enemy layer. And if we go to edit project settings and we unclick enemy right here. So this is the collision matrix. And it basically says if these things are checked, that means they can collide with each other. So the default can hit the enemy. The UI can hit the enemy. I don't know why. I think all the UI, some of the UI has like ray casting and it's way off to the side anyway. So it doesn't really matter if that hits anything. But like if I uncheck it, enemies will no longer hit enemies. So they just go through each other. So that's an easy way to fix that. I'm going to make a few more enemies here. I'm going to unpack all of them. I think I had 4. I don't know why I'm... Well, I'll find out in a second. I'm going to unpack all of them. I'm going to go into my sprites and I have... Okay, I just have 2 more. So I'll delete this one. So I'm dragging the new sprite. I'll move it over so we can tell what's what. There's just 3 enemies. I thought I had a 4th one. Oh well. So this one I'll just delete then. So this dude looks smaller and faster, so I'm gonna reset it. Oh, I guess it doesn't fix it anyway. I'm gonna set it to like 0.675 maybe, and then 0.9. I'm gonna let's see.
Yeah, cool. I got a quick question right here.
What's up?
So, it's just because you're doing different enemy types. So what I was wondering is like, how would let's say one of them you wanted to make it so it takes 2 shots to take them out.
Yeah.
How would that? Would you just make a variable like health for them,
The,
or we can do something else?
is the enemy gonna have the same exact AI as the other one? Like it's gonna do the exact same thing as the other one? Yeah, then you can just change this value. You can just change its health. So we're gonna make it like 1 or 2. So you gotta hit it twice to kill it. I'm gonna make a few variations where basically the only difference between these AI is gonna be their stats. So I'll change its max HP to 2. I'm gonna change one more thing in the enemy controller actually. I'm gonna make a public bool attacks equals true. So this super fast enemy is just gonna zoom down and try to ram you, but he's not gonna shoot. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say if attacks, then we're gonna do this. I'm gonna add one more thing. I'm gonna do void on collision enter 2D. I'm gonna say if it hits the player, collision dot collider dot compare tag, parentheses, if you hit the player, then you're gonna get the Shmup reference. So we're gonna damage the player. Do like 2 damage maybe, because it's just ramming you, and that would be pretty strong. And then we're gonna destroy ourselves. So we're gonna do collision. Oh, sorry. We're gonna just do die. I can disable it actually, because when we add the score into the game, we're gonna add the score in this function, like game controller to add score. So we don't want to call that when we suicide bomb, because you shouldn't give the player score if it's not the one killing it. So take damage and then disable the thing. So controller. Why does that give me an error? Show memory controller. Am I missing rigid bodies or something? It's weird. Weird. So attacks I'll check to 0 or to false, whatever. I'm gonna give it a speed of like 600 or something. I'll give it an X speed of like 250. This doesn't matter. Let's see what happens. I'm actually gonna move them up so I don't immediately start attacking. Let's see if it still if it still gives me an error. Oh, I think it's because the player died, and it was trying to find the player, so it was giving me the error from that. Yeah, so it goes faster and it tries to bomb you. So I need to make it a little faster. Yep, because it's trying to grab from the enemy, or from the player position. Check one more thing. If player is not equal to null, then do all this. I should hopefully fix the error. I guess the player is not null. Dot game object dot active in hierarchy. Yeah. So you can check game object dot active in hierarchy if the object is active in the current scene. So when the player dies, we're gonna disable it or destroy it or whatever. But if we save a reference to it, like at the beginning and it's on enable up here, it still has the reference. It just tries to find the position, but it's not active, so it gives an error. So this should fix the error from that. Let's see. So, yep, player dies, and of course there's still an error. Let's see. This thing has the error itself. If player is not equal to null, and it's supposed to not throw an error. Let's see. Okay, no error, cool. So we're checking to see if the player is null, which means if he's destroyed or not. Is that player getting destroyed when he dies? No, it's just inactive. Okay, weird. I fixes it though, so it's fine. So we're checking to see if the player is null and if it's active in the scene. So if we check both of those, it'll cover every case of the player being alive or not. My other problem is the player wasn't taking 2 damage when he died. For int I equals 0, I is less than damage, I plus plus. Let me see real quick. I'm gonna give it like 750 and like 300. So it goes super fast and dive bombs. So let's see if it actually takes damage. Takes 1 damage still. Enemy controller. I wonder if it's just not moving the hearts right. 5 times less than 0, then do all this. See if it debugs at least. Yeah, so it called it twice. Just didn't. Oh, its health is going down, but it's not destroying all the UI. Shoot. Yeah, it's destroying the UI. Oh, it's not destroying the UI enough.
I thought it was saying to take damage, you're passing in the value, so if they take in 2, that damage equals 2. But your for loop's gonna run so which means that your HP you're subtracting damage each time. So instead of 2 damage, it's gonna just 4. But only you call a new part specific.
Like that, maybe?
Yeah. That'll fix it?
Maybe. Good catch. Let's see. Did it? No, it didn't work. The thing is, it's not removing the UI every time.
Alright, never mind then.
Well, that was still an error. It still fixed one thing, but 4 eyes, 0 eyes less than damage. Let's do this actually. In the remove heart, I'll do HP minus. Weird. It's still taking damage, it's just not destroying the UI right. Okay, let's try this then. Destroy the ith child of it. So when we call it in, we'll pass in I, and so when it's 0, it'll destroy the first child. When it's 1, it'll destroy the second. Maybe I should go backwards instead. To avoid any, yeah, let's try that. Damage greater than 0 and minus. Let's try that instead. So if I take 2 damage, I'll destroy the second child, then the first child, and then stop. There we go. Oh. Just trying to destroy the last child. If health parent dot transform dot has child, no, child count greater than 0. So if we have a child to destroy, then destroy that child. Maybe that'll work better. Let's see. Because it's an odd number, when we take 2 damage, there'll still be one time where it's gonna... Shit. Cat is greater than 0. So if our child count is greater than I, so if we take, the damage is 2, try to show the second child. So let's try I minus 1 maybe. Let's see. One, 2, 3. Yep, awesome. Cool. So basically saying if we have more than that many hearts left, so if we have 1 heart left and we're taking damage, then we only have that first child. So we're going to skip this one and then just destroy the first child. And also we're making sure that we're destroying the child I minus 1. Because if the damage is 2, we're going to try to destroy the second child, but there's only they only have indices 0 and 1 because the array is starts at 0. So cool. That fixes that at least. So the enemy can ram the player now. And I'm gonna save this as a new one. So I'm gonna go and I'll call it enemy B. And this one's gonna be slower, but it's gonna this one's like the heavy one. Make this one like 500, like 400. Max HP of like 6 or something. Give it like a slow X speed, but it'll shoot a lot. Between 0.5, 4.5, and 0.7 and 0.9 seconds. Let's do that. And then for this one, it's going to be in the middle. So I think we can just save the stats of this one. Give it like 4 health or something. So 2, 4, 6. And then for, I think this we can keep. I'll do 0.8 seconds or something. But yeah, so I'm going to save that one too. Delete them both, and then I can drag in the references. We name this enemy A. Let's make sure it still has the same consistency. So ABC, I should spawn a random one. Cool. And it spawns all of them. We just need to add score when they die. And have a button spawn when we die that says restart game or something. So we're going to go to the enemy, sorry, the game controller. And make a public void add score int. Let's do int amount. So first, I'm going to make, going to use UI later, so I'm going to save that up there. Public int score. Beginning, I'm going to do score equals 0. And then we're just going to say score plus equals amount. So if we have a UI, we can just reference that and say, okay, every frame we're going to update this to be what our current score is. But to increase the score, we have to call that when the enemy dies. So let's do that real quick. So different enemies will have different score values. And when they die, we're going to say, actually, let's get a reference to the game controller. You can also do this in the die event, but I want it to be saved beforehand in case I need it for anything else. Find object of type, Shmup game controller. I'll just say down here, controller dot add score, score value. Did we put it as a float instead of an int? Int. Sorry. Gotta be the same data type. So let's set up the UI for that real quick. So public text score text. I'll just say down here. Score text dot text equals score plus score dot to string. So then that should work right off the bat. This actually. So we're going to go to the canvas. We have stuff saved from last time, so I'm just going to make a new text. I'm going to call it score text. And I'm just going to put it at the very top of the screen. So I'm going to alt click the very top part, put it down by like 125 or something. I'm going to go to bold. I'm going to make its size like 50 or something. I don't know. Also going to change horizontal and vertical overflow to be both overflow. And then middle of the screen. Yep, like that. So yep, that looks fine. We can put it up more if we need to. One thing I wanted to do that I didn't last time. So I'm gonna make a new folder called font. And I'm gonna drag in a TTF file that I already have. So you can just get a TTF file and you can drag it into Unity and then you can just drag it onto the text object and it'll change the text. So now I have a fancy font. I just have a bunch of these saved on my computer so I can just grab them whenever. Oh, and then last thing we need is drag in the text. There we go. Yep. So I want it to be obviously above the hearts. So I'm going to do it to like -75 and do the hearts to 300 or something. Just trial and error this until it works. That's way too low. 200 maybe? Something like that. Problem is it's not quite centered. We can just tweak this for hours until it looks just right, but it works, so it's fine. That's not an error we need to worry about. I think that's most of it. What else did I do for this? Let's see. Oh, I did one more thing for like polish. Let's do that real quick. Explosions. So I have that. Why is it a prefab? It's in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna make a new game object. Make an explosion. So I have a folder somewhere. Did I delete the? Oh, I made it into a folder in. I'm dumb. I put it in the prefabs folder instead of the sprites folder. That'll mess some stuff up. Give me a second to find the files again. Let's see. Explosions should be explosion animation. There we go. There we go. So to do this, I'm just gonna click and shift click all of them. I'm gonna drag them onto the explosion. I'm gonna drag the biggest one so I can tell how big it's gonna be. I think I can change these the size to 32 also into point filter. Yep, looks kind of good. So if I go to the animator, sorry, the animation tab, and I hit play, it should play the animation automatically. So we just need to make a script to control it and then call it when the enemy dies. This should be pretty simple. So we're just gonna say public animation clip. Oh, sorry, clip. There you go. Say void on enable, invoke, disable. Why is this thing? There we go. Disable after clip dot length. Syntax error. What? Oh, comma. And then we'll do two more things. We'll do on disable, cancel invoke, and then void disable just says to disable the game object. I always do that. So we're going to disable it after this many seconds. It's about 0.75 or 0.5 seconds or something like that. And then when we disable it, we don't want to call this again, just in case it gets disabled some other way. So we're just going to cancel the invoke and then just disable when we're done using it. So I'm going to add explosion controller. And then you can just click on animation clip, the little bar right there, and then you can find the animation you want. So it's the explosion animation. And if we play it, it'll just poof, and then it disables itself after the animation's done playing. So we want to go into the enemy and get a reference to that. So public game object explosion. So we're going to spawn the explosion when we die. So we're going to go to the die function and say instantiate explosion at transform.position, and I'll give it a random rotation. So 0, 0, random dot range 0 to 360. So before we die, we're going to spawn the explosion. And then I'm going to save this to a prefab. This is just the Shmup folder. I'm just going to call it Shmup folder. If I have the player saved somewhere, the player is not saved at all, actually. So all Shmup stuff. So I've added all these since I made them prefabs already. Drag the explosion in, so it's a prefab now. I can just drag it in. To all of them. Then when they die, they should spawn an explosion. We didn't even test our score, did we? So they're dying at least, but the score's not updating. Controller.add score value. Oh, I didn't change the score value, that's why. Duh. Make this like, let's do a little bit stronger, like 8. Give him like 100 score. This one will give like 60 or something. I don't know. This one's kind of in the middle, so I'll give it like 40. It's fine. Yep, that works. Cool. So now all we got to do is make some UI to restart the game. And there's another thing I can do for polish, which is when I shoot, I can spawn a little flash to show that I'm shooting. Might do that today. Shouldn't take long. So game controller, let's see, public game object, def UI, public void activate death UI or something like that. Death UI dot set active to true. Then in the player controller, we'll say when we die, we'll just say controller. Find the Shmup game controller. I can type right, that'd be great. Dot activate death UI. I forgot one more thing that I might do too. Let's see. So game controller, we're gonna add an image. I'm gonna call this death UI. I'm gonna change its size. I'm gonna shift alt click the very bottom right so it changes to the size of the canvas. I'm gonna make it mostly transparent and red. I'm gonna add a button and text. I'm gonna say overflow and overflow, like 36 or something to the middle, and I'll say you died. Also make it like, make it black. Do it like by 100, and then I'll also add a button. Also change the text on the button to be the pride text. I'll say restart. Change the size too a little bit. $25 by like 50 maybe. Who cares? I'm gonna do on click. I'm dragging the game controller to the button. I don't have a function for restarting the level yet. I can add one in about 2 seconds. So we're gonna go using Unity engine.scene management, and I'll make a public void restart. Once again, scene manager dot load scene manager dot get active scene dot name or build index or whatever. So load the current scene. I'm going to change my build settings so it actually has this scene in it. I'm going file build settings. Make sure it's in there. And then for the button, we're going to just do the drop down and change it to be, where's restart? I did the right thing. Oh, it's the player controller. Shit. Sorry. Game controller. There we go. I'll make sure I save this one too. Could still work with the player, but whatever, it's fine. Restart. Oh, and I'm also going to disable this and drag it into the game controller. There we go. And we die, and it says that, and we can restart. Of course, it's not clicking. Why isn't it? Do we not have a? We don't have a thing. Cool. If you copy like the canvas and stuff to different scenes in your game, and make sure your UI also has an event system. Good thing to keep in mind, because the event system keeps track of if you click on stuff or not. So if you don't have it, then it won't let you do any of the UI button clicks, or I think if you do like scroll bars or stuff like that. So yeah, there we go. Also going to change my player start position to like down here, so it's actually like a shmup. And another thing we could add. So say the enemies are going down and we don't kill them. We want them to die when they get off screen and decrement our score instead of add to it. So let's do that real quick. In the game controller, we have bounds right there. So we can save bounds, and instead of spawning, or instead of checking for top of the screen, we can check for the bottom, so negative bounds. Or you can just add a trigger to the bottom of the screen or whatever if you want to do it that way, but this way works too. So I'm going to do 52 bounds, save it at the beginning, camera.main screen to world point, and I'll say if transform.position.y is less than bounds.y or something. Negative bounds.y or something like that. Not sure exactly yet. Let's see. Then we'll do cont dot add score. We'll just add a negative score value, and then disable. So active to false. We can see if this works. Let's see. Yep. Maybe a little bit too soon. Oh no, it's good. Cool. And then adds negative score. So I want to go way over here. Yep. And this will just go on forever because my guy can't die if he's way off screen like this. So, yeah, cool. I have like 10 minutes left, so I might as well do the flash. So let's do that real quick. So I'm going to make another new game object. Call this flash. I'm going to go to my flash sprites, shift click all of them, drag them into flash. I'll just call it flash. And then I'll drag the first one in because it's the most obvious one. You can see it most obvious. I'm going to change the settings so it size is better. Doesn't really matter. You can scale it too if you want. Yeah, it's probably too big, so let me just do like 0.5 or something, because it's going to spawn like right here-ish. So I don't want it to be too big. So then I'm going to drag it into the Shmup. Probably just add the explosion controller to this too. Except for the clip that we're using this time is the flash animation. So then we want it to spawn at the player's, when the player's shooting. So let's go to the player controller, get a reference to that, game object flash. And then when we shoot, it should be a shoot function. Yep, instantiate that. We'll also instantiate flash at the same thing. And then because it has the script that destroys itself automatically, we shouldn't have to worry about anything else. It should do everything by itself. Oh. Wait a minute. Because we didn't assign flash anywhere? Yeah, duh. Let me edit the player prefab. There we go. Cool. Yep, there we go. And it's kind of doing it too fast or too slow, so we can do this too. Let's see. I'm gonna change its animation speed. I think I did this last time actually. Let me try this. Explosion controller, I'm gonna say animation speed. think. So if it's a second long, but it's double speed, we disable it 0.5 seconds because that's when it finishes the animation. I think the math checks out there. So let's do 2 seconds, and I can change in the animator the speed to 2. You just click on the animation that you want to change, and then you can go to the inspector up here to change that. Let's see. Better. So 3 and 3. Kind of works. For those dudes are oh, duh. So in the Shmup explosion, we're gonna change this to 1. Sorry. If we change one thing, it changes the other prefabs too. So we can just tweak this so that it stops automatically. You could also actually make the animation be on these game objects and just make an empty animation and have it transition to that instead. Like, let me flash, go to the animation tab, and I'll add a new clip, and I'll do flash empty or something. And then let's see, in flash I'll just say the sprite render is active, and then in empty I'll say the sprite render is not active, and then I'll just transition from one to another. I just right click, make transition to that. Let's make it really short. When we get into the other games, I'll do more about animations and stuff. Like when we have a player that's moving around and has to play left, right, up and down animations and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we could just tweak this all day and add a bunch of little things to it. Like we can add little particles under the ships when they move. I could add spawn positions to the enemy bullets so they don't spawn underneath it. They will spawn to the left or right of it or something. But that's basically it. It's a little shmup. So yeah. Any questions? Comments? I'll probably do a probably try to start the tower defense next time too. So yeah, that shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 different classes probably. So it works similar to this. It has wave spawning at certain sides, only at certain sides of the screen. Only they would move on a path instead. And we could just do like waypoints or something for that. We'll make it simple, but we'll just have it where you can spawn the towers instead of you control the thing that shoots. And we'll have it just rotate automatically and shoot the enemy as they get closer and stuff like that. So yeah, should be good. For next progress report, it's gonna be just your guys' term project. So something you did for you guys' term project, and it is still individual submissions. So you have to program something for your game. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that should be all for today. I'll hang out for a few more minutes for questions and stuff.